Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for another Board of Trustees and Village update. We had a couple of announcements recently that I want to make sure to update everybody on. Just a reminder about the Downtown After Sundown concert series. If you haven't seen them yet, they're really great. Every Friday, Saturday night at 7:30 p.m. weather permitting down on Spiota Park and on Sloane Street. You can go check out live music, get some ice cream, some food, eat outside. It's a great time to invite a friend, come hang out in South Orange downtown and enjoy some live music. Again, that's every Friday, Saturday evening at 7:30 p.m. In Spiota Park and on Sloane Street. Also, the free concert in the park series is every Wednesday evening at 7:30 p.m. in Floods Hill. I believe there are 2 concerts left for the summer. They're really great shows. Bring a lawn chair or picnic. There's also some food vendors that are usually out down on Floods Hill as well for the event. The Main Street South Orange Farmers Market is every Wednesday from 1 to 8 p.m. and that's in the parking lot off of Sloane Street and First Street downtown. Just a reminder, if everybody hopefully has noticed already, that single stream recycling has started. The pickup is going to be the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of each month, and now you'll be able to put all of your recyclable materials into one container. And if you already have a toter that you've been using for recycling in South Orange, you can continue to use that. And if you do need to buy a new one, you can do so through the village and we'll deliver it. Make sure to go online to the website at southorange.org/singlestream and look at all the materials that you can now recycle. Because not only can you commingle the materials into one container, but there are also more items available that we're allowed to recycle as part of this new system. So we're really hoping that residents take full advantage of this, recycle everything possible that we're allowed to do. Also, National Night Out, August 7th, which is a Tuesday from 6:30 to 10, and that's down at Floods Hill. It's a great event. It's a nationwide series of events celebrating and promoting police and community partnerships, promoting public safety. Our police department, fire department, rescue squad, and other departments will be out there. There'll be kids' activities, and the Muppets will be shown on the outdoor movie screen down on Floods Hill. In our last meeting, we had a presentation from SOPAC. By the executive director. We'll start putting those on the website at southorange.org so people can keep up to date about all the different financial aspects and the different events and how the season's progressing at SOPAC. I want to make sure to bring that information out to folks. We had 2 ordinances on second reading in our last meeting. The first is on a Historic Preservation Commission, which we did pass. So we will now have a historic preservation in South Orange, something we're all really excited about, something that a lot of residents, community members really wanted. That will help empower our residents and community members to be more participatory in preserving the historic nature of a lot of our residential communities in South Orange. So we're really excited about that having passed. And you can go onto the website at southorange.org and submit your application on the volunteering page if you're interested in being part of that or learning more. We also had a second reading of an ordinance about water shutoffs notices. That was kind of a housekeeping item, making sure that we're noticed by East Orange Water Commission if there is going to be a water shutoff for a resident. We had a number of ordinances on first reading, which I'll scroll through the screen because there were a bunch of them in our last meeting. One of the most notable of which was an ordinance to establish regulating the purchase and sale of used jewelry. This is supposed to cut down on thefts and on the transmission of stolen goods. So basically the idea is that there'll not only be identification required for anyone who is selling jewelry to a store in South Orange, although a couple of our businesses were at our meeting and talked about some of the ways that they already do that to be proactive to cut down on this the transmission of stolen goods, but also that there's going to be a waiting period of 72 hours. So if you sell used jewelry to a jewelry store in South Orange, they'll have to wait 3 days or 72 hours before they're allowed to resell it. Again, it's supposed to help cut down on the transmission of stolen goods. There were a couple other ordinances regarding parking, which I'll scroll through the screen so you can see them, and an ordinance about establishing local landmarks, which we tabled until the next meeting on August 13th. We had quite a few resolutions on our consent agenda, which as always I'll scroll through the screen so you don't have to listen to me read them all aloud, but we appointed a number of people to resident advisory committees. Those were some of the most notable resolutions. We also passed a resolution, as we do, to go into closed session, and we talked about the agenda for our closed session meeting. So, Third and Valley Redevelopment Agreement, the ICMA Police Best Practices Study, the Mary Lawn Property, New Water Supply Source, Personnel Investigation, Code Enforcement Staffing, East Orange Water Commission, Contract Union Negotiations, and South Orange Commons Redeveloper Agreement. We've been trying to move towards getting more of those updates in writing so that we don't have to go into closed session as much, trying to cut down on the amount of time that we spend in those meetings and really only discuss items where the board needs to make a decision on, and really make sure that the majority of our time is spent up here in public. We did approve our consent agenda, moved on to approving our bills, and I had a couple other updates for our meeting, one of which was about Senate Bill 1534, or with the Assembly Companion 2586 in the New Jersey Legislature, which is about zoning exemptions, which basically provides the same exceptions that apply to public universities and other state agencies where they're not, they don't have to follow local zoning laws. This would create that exception for private universities and colleges as well. There are a number of communities that have expressed some concerns about this, as this would potentially or theoretically allow a college or university to build in a way that's not consistent with the local municipality's zoning laws, and could create more of a burden for police and fire, EMS, building, and other services. So that's something that I've talked to a number of other mayors about, talked with the League of Municipalities about, other municipal officials, and basically stating our opposition to those bills and our willingness to work on making sure that the planning and zoning process in our community, although I think we do a very good job here compared to some of the communities in question, but making sure that we're taking the needs into the higher education institutions into account, but not just creating a blanket overall exception to that. But also, I had a meeting with the Essex County Office of Emergency Management to talk about our emergency operations plan, which is a document that contains all of the emergency operations procedures that exist in South Orange. That has to be redone every 4 years. We're working on that. They also gave us some great news that we did get $25,000 for an emergency management grant that I found last year that we applied for with Seton Hall University. So we're excited about that. That's going to allow us to improve our emergency communications infrastructure, and that's we're again very happy about that. And thanks Seton Hall for applying for that grant with us. I also met with the ACLU of New Jersey recently to talk about the Open Public Meetings Act and the Open Public Records Act, which are being updated in the legislature, in the New Jersey legislature right now, providing some of my experiences with technology, with some of the experiences from here in South Orange, to make sure that the bills get updated in a way that fully take advantage of the technology that's available to encourage municipal governments to be not only as cost-effective as possible, but also as transparent as possible. We've set an example in many ways in South Orange, for example, by releasing our budget in a spreadsheet format, and hopefully we can pass some other policies, for example, about social media and digital communications that could set an example and be a model for how other towns can do this in New Jersey. We had a discussion in our last meeting about the pool policy and guest passes, an issue that arose from a number of Maplewood residents who have kids at South Mountain School, and the Recreation Committee looked at this issue and they recommended upping the number of guest passes that someone is allowed to purchase from 20 to 50, and doing that immediately for this year to make sure it's easier for people who have kids in a South Orange school so that the South Orange and Maplewood kids can be together over the summer, even though they may be in the same class together during the school year, but they live in separate towns. They also discussed possibly a reciprocal arrangement with the Maplewood pool. That's something that they'll discuss for next year or for future years, and also maybe a discounted guest pass after certain hours when the pool's not as crowded. We talked a little bit about workflow for when people have a transportation or parking complaint, making sure that goes to, for example, our Transportation Advisory Committee before coming to the board. We talked about Village Hall, the relocation and renovation update. We're going to have the architect and construction managers come into a board meeting soon and make a presentation about that, update the board and the community about the progress that they're making on moving this project forward. We also talked about the communication policies and how the board gets notified of, for example, police reports, and then equally as importantly, how that information is distributed to the rest of the community. We don't have real solid guidelines right now about the relationship between the government and the press and the government and the community as far as how information is supposed to get distributed. So we've looked at, so far, I've looked at about a dozen or two dozen towns, look at their communication policies, and we're going to start to put together something that's a little bit more comprehensive to make sure we have some set guidelines in place and that everybody knows their role in the process as far as making sure that the community not only has timely information, but that has accurate information that's coming from the village, not necessarily from one elected official. So those are some of the most recent things that have happened. If you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to drop me an email at atorpey@southorange.org, or please feel free to drop by my office hours every Tuesday afternoon. Hope to hear from you and hope your summer's going well. Take care.